It is all good. I am not going to be here long, but I did have a couple of thoughts since this is, the day after Super Tuesday. All this energy is in the topics. I, for one, think, politics, you can either keep them to yourself or you can go forward and have those conversations when you have a willing person to have it with. Um, but in any event, for me, I like to personalize every topic. So marriage is politics. Going to give you a little bit of the upcoming news or the news that's probably been trending for a while. Then I'm going to go into the deeper ramifications of what it means to me, be one brother Moses. But of course, as always, I cannot do a live stream without music. So let me see what I got. I think I got a good one here that I'm pretty familiar with. Oh yeah, that's my one. So I'm gonna let that one bring it on in. We're only gonna be here for about 10 minutes, 10 minutes at the most. Just a quick breakdown. But as I get my energy, my mojo right, let that music hit for a little second. Midtown Pookie was good. Salute. All right, so enough of that. Marriage is politics. Let me give you a couple of reasons why. But let's start off here. Trend and topic. As you know, Biden is inching his way back into that lead. Looks like he'll be the front runner for that Democratic presidential candidacy. So everybody's going to want to know, who is your running mate? Creepy Joe, who is your running mate? And now this topic is actually relevant to me because as I looked at the politics, I tried to find those areas to which we can find some common ground, me being middle class, me being a married man. What are the things that are important to me? It's always going to be around taxes. It's always going to be around savings. It's going to be around debt, student loan, all of that really comes back to the home. But it's also about education and the degree to which I can have some type of influence in my community. Business opportunities, investment opportunities, all of that is encompassed inside of what a political process should actually incorporate or encompass. So as you see, they'll have an agenda, and on that agenda, there'll be certain topics or bullet notes, things that you can vote on, everything from taxes and tax reform, postal stamp taxes, different positions that may or may not impact you. Medicare is always one of them. The economy is always the big one for me that I like to harp on. So I thought this was eerie, though. Another topic that just came out. Let me see who actually published this. It's been published to The Hill. It's been published to The Root, to the Daily Mail, that UK, The True Pundit. Bustle.com is the one where I grabbed a couple of these photos from. The New York Post posted one a couple of minutes ago. Joe Biden would consider asking Michelle Obama to be the running mate. And I thought it was pretty eerie because, they call a guy Creepy Joe. And then I just want to point something out as I begin to build on why marriage is politics. Look here, and when you look at this image, you see him sitting close. Proximity is one of those things that we always discuss, proximity to whiteness, right? So your ability to get closer to the white folks who can be key decision makers or key influencers in those parts of your life, the economy, if that's what's important to you, having an impact in the community, if that's what's important to you. So many areas to which you can kind of streamline that and say, getting close to whiteness is important to some people for X, Y, and Z reason, right? And so when you look at getting close, I think this is a good example of that. Look at his tie with those polka dots, and then look at her scarf. I'm gonna let that one sink in as we continue to digest the information. Why Joe Biden, you might as well go on and just make that black woman his running mate. And then I'm gonna give you another image here. Check this one out. Same contrast there. Look at her dress. Look at her earrings, the green colors in it. And then look at his tie. Now, could you imagine somebody being this close to your damn face? First of all, that's got to be annoying at the very least. That has got to be annoying. I don't give a fuck who it is. Wifey can't get her freaking nose this close to my cheekbone without it just raising the hairs on the back of the neck. Like, what the hell is you doing that close? Like, he got a secret or something. What is you trying to say that you can't say with your full voice? Look at that turkey neck. Gobble, gobble. He got to whisper it, I guess. He got to get close enough to whisper it. But in order to do so, first they have to coordinate their color schemes, right? And so during his farewell speech, at the time he was leaving, but President Barack Obama said this. He said he and Michelle love Joe and his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, like family. And that being close with them has been one of the great joys of their lives. Take it back a little bit, where Joe said in 2016, as long as there is a breath in me, I'll be there for you. And so those messages are also here in this theme. As you see here, this was the first campaign, and it was like an exchange. You know, the president and the vice president, and the president there, Barack Obama, and Dr. Jill, and First Lady of the White House with the vice president. And that embrace, that friendship, that symbolism, that unity, that common respect or appreciation. There's a sentiment there that is being expressed when you're referring to the closeness to whiteness. And you'll hear a lot of this in the B1 network as we continue to build these messages out, getting access to, or gaining access to, fighting for access to, and considering it a privilege to be this close, kissing cousins close. Man, he might as well go on and just let him go on in. Look, I can hashtag Michael Bloomberg, hashtag Elizabeth Warren, hashtag Bernie Sanders, hashtag even Donald Trump, who would be on the opposition here, could hashtag Joe Biden, hashtag 2020 presidential campaign, hashtag 2020 presidential candidates, or even hashtag the running mates. And it would all draw, all of those hashtags would draw more people to the stream. But I don't hashtag it because this information is for those who rock with us. What up, gangster? Salute. And so we make it available for those who know why I am, who I am, and why I say the things that I say. He might as well go on and just appoint that lady his running mate. And I'm gonna move on to the next one. See, because I like to be visual with the representation. See, I said kissing cousins close to whiteness. Throw your arm around that white woman and embrace her for the things that she's done for you in your career, your campaign, the access, the elevation, the networks, the circles that you have been able to move into, the lectures that you've been able to give. There is a part of your success that at this point, the president or President Barack Obama, I don't know if they ever stopped calling him that, Mr. President, but he could attribute some of his success and their success then, because marriage itself is politics. Whether she wanted to be kissing cousins close with creepy Joe, we don't know. We can do the play on words. Like, hey, this is what I was coming up with a little bit earlier. I said, maybe I can help everyone learn to love each other. That was a play on words right there. See, Michelle, Michelle. Maybe I can help everyone learn to love each other. That seems to be the message there, that resounding message of peace and reconciliation between the black man and that white woman who has always been his greatest adversary or accusator, as he made his way towards his nemesis, which was that white man. And the unification of the black man and the white man in a spirit of peace and reconciliation, one that also holds up that narrative of that dead wench or the black woman and her proximity to the white man. See, she may not have had a choice in that matter on whether or not she could survive by getting closer to the white man, kissing cousins close. But it was symbolic in the relationship that we saw as they were accepting the nomination. This was the renomination, by the way, in the 2020 Democratic National Convention. And it would seem that that Democratic National Convention had lost a little bit of its swagger. It had lost a little bit of its influence. It had lost some steam, some mojo, its fundraising ability. Joe Biden was damn near broke. As deep blue as you can get state. Let me show you. I could probably show you better than I can tell you. I don't even know if I should bring it all the way out, but it is relevant. You know what? Yeah. This is relevant. Yeah, but yeah, it's not going to give you the best image. I'm looking at it here to see if I can actually bring up the Super Tuesday Democratic results, which shows by state who was the front runner or who took that lead. Joe Biden in the states that he took, Bernie Sanders in the states that he took, the number of delegates, 337 for Biden, 270 for Bernie Sanders. So we can give knowledge. We can drop those gems and those jewels. Michael Bloomberg can drop out and start to endorse Biden. Elizabeth Warren, the only claim for reparations that could have been on the ballot should she have run one of her 100-day plans. But in any event, people don't want the facts. People don't want it to be broken down to actually see what it looks like. They actually do want to hear it broken down in layman's terms. So I'm going to give it to you. Kissing cousins close. Close enough to lean your forehead on his wife's, the first lady of the White House, on her forehead. That close. Watch that hand, Creepy Joe, because Black women do have a little junk in the trunk. If you miss that mark, it's not just cousins anymore. You are kissing cousins close while holding your wife's hand and throwing that other arm around the first lady of the White House. Now, President Obama has to continue to smile and wave and do his thing there. You can see the ripples running across his face. By this point in the campaign trail, he started to gray a little bit because marriage is politics. Shout out Getty Images. But that intimate moment, like dance partners, where Joe and Michelle share that dance at the 2020 Democratic National Convention. Go and cut a rug, dance with them, get that close. And so now that you have the visuals and marriage is politics, they get kissing cousins close to their, I think that they're their allies in their mind. Have to circle this conversation back to why it's relevant to me, because the American household debt hit a record in 2018. All the while they were getting closer and talking about reconciliation and increasing proximity and whiteness and removing that stigma of racism from the society because they had a symbol that they could reflect upon. All the while the national debt was hitting a record high 13 trillion, and it breaks down by those same ages or voting blocks that they like to look at us from, that lens. And how does that debt strike home? From 22 to 35, which was that age range of my wife and myself, the average household debt for that individual was around $67,000. And then from 36 to 44, around $133,000 in that household. Those households can break down in a number of ways, but start right there, because when they are looking for your vote, they are looking at sometimes divided households, even politically. This data is courtesy of the Survey on Consumer Finances, debt.org. Facts. Americans in debt and that demographic. I could break this information down all the way race-based, but it's not necessary for this discussion because marriage is politics, meaning sometimes even in that home, one might say Biden and the other might say Bernie. My wife, for example, working on her doctorate degree, looking at the political agendas being laid out by the candidates on the Democratic side. One saying, which is Bernie, state of California, stay with me, free education, or let's make education more affordable, and all of those things. Her working on her doctorate, moving into the space of 36 to 44, looking at $133,000 in debt. What is $133,000? That's like a 2-bedroom, shack in California. I don't know what the fuck you think you're gonna get in home-wise in any part of California for $133,000. Even with the traditional 10 to 20% down, $133,000 home is a piece of shit. It's a piece of shit. Now, I tell you, there may be some areas where $133,000 of debt inside of a household, that means something. But when you're working on your doctorate, we already know that blacks do have a tendency to take on more debt, more federal and student loans. Why? Because there wasn't that luxury of inherited wealth that was passed down, nor that privilege of a home that gave you the jump start in the first place. No trust funds on most cases. So no land passed down, no trust funds, parents not able to provide you a college education. And so you're dependent upon either your ability to earn those scholarships to apply and win, excuse me, or those federal loans. So blacks, 80% debt. And then they even have reports and studies that show 15 years after getting that degree. So stay with me. You were 22 when you graduated with your bachelor's. 15 years after you were working on that, you didn't have a lot of scholarships. The ones you did have didn't cover your full ride, so you had some loans. 15 years later, you were an age group 36 to 44. And your debt, even as an African-American at that point, educated African-American, was probably around $10,000 more than the white folks who got there because they did have a little bit of a leg up. Let's not make it about race, because we have a black president who is kissing cousins close with his vice president and loves his wife, Dr. Jill, like family, the great joys of their lives. And so it's relevant because total debt, very subjective. They look at median, so that somewhere in the middle, there's people who have less and some people who will have a lot more by the age 36 to 44. Their house alone, or what they owe on their home, will be more than $133,000. So when I put this chart up there, it's typically for those who find this information valuable to kind of look at it and say, where do you fall? And are they speaking to your issues as an American household? Are you in this 45 to 54? Notice that between 36 and 44 and then 45 to 54, the debt goes up by 1,000. You would think that people would be in a position to pay it off a little bit, but in that, what is it, almost 20 years, you managed to gain one more thousand in debt. So you may have paid down your student loans a bit, but that mortgage kicks in, and you may have established some equity, but you may still owe into your 54s. What happens in your lifespan, and why what is on the ballot matters to you matters every time around. Why are you voting, or why are you not voting? Why are you saying, look, I ain't even voting on this one? Nothing on that ballot is relating to me. Everything on that ballot is for the advantage of those who would never be kissing cousins with me. I could only imagine somebody being that damn close to my face. And because I don't think like that and I don't operate in that space, then it is highly unlikely that $133,000 of debt is where my family would be. No, we would fall a lot higher than that. And this is still single asset household, one home, middle class. How much debt do you owe when the husband has a degree and the wife is working on their doctorate, and you have a home and credit cards and things of that nature? We fall a lot higher on this scale. And so for me, the economy stupid will be the number one reason that I would vote. And if there is nothing on that ballot for no other reason, healthcare was for old folks, the mandatory from 22 to 35, I probably spent $200 at the hospital at most. So why am I paying hundreds of dollars or whatever it is per month in premiums for health insurance, and it's mandatory? And then the money that my employer pays for health insurance as well, that could have been in my pocket. All of that income would have offset this debt that I have as a household, but it didn't come to me. It went right back to some other bank, right at an insurance company backed by some other bank. Not to me. So the American household and what I have is linked to this political marriage that we see being bolstered right now. Average debt at graduation, $16,000. The percent of Black or African Americans who are borrowing in order to get that degree, 83%. There are definitely racial disparities in student loan debt, just like there are disparities across the board anyway. And so dive into it. You got your car, which is probably the predominant share when you're 22 to 35. And this is that young voter that they're talking about $5 and $10 social media driven grassroots campaigns in the digital space that President Obama's campaign was strategic at, that Joe Biden's coffers could benefit from, but it's $5 and $10 at a time. And most of that is going to Bernie Sanders for the young vote because they are college students and they are looking for college loan forgiveness and forbearance. Early career stages, which means somewhere from $45,000 to $75,000, even with a bachelor's degree. Student loan payments of approximately $500 to $1,000, meaning that if you're only bringing in, let's say $800-900 a week, it takes you 2 weeks just to cover your student loan and your car and then your rent. You're tapped out when you're 22 to 44, but 40% of their monthly income is spent on discretionary costs like clothes, entertainment, and other non-essential items. They being those between the ages of 22 to 35, how active are they really politically? How much of an impact are they really looking to have inside of their local communities? Why would healthcare matter to them? Why would you need to tell them, let's move, which was the campaign slogan when she was first lady? You see what I did right there? It was just keeping it relevant. What unfinished works does she have as first lady that she would like to contribute as vice president? Look, I got a lot of questions I could hit them with. Let me run the gambit real quick. I said I won't be long, so I will be quick with it. I won't even give the answers to these. I'll leave it as a conversation, but number one, do the Democrats even have a snowball's chance in hell at reclaiming the political power? Oh yeah, Midtown. Plus you got to eat. Number two, why the hell would he choose her besides the fact that they were kissing cousins? At very minimum, they got a good relationship. That trust is established, credibility from her degree, credibility also in their ability, the Obama family, to leverage social media, get that younger vote out there to 22 to 35, to galvanize some other voting blocks in the 36 to 44 age range. The 45 to 54 is probably where they're strongest, but as we see, that is the highest debt bracket. And so they're going to have to talk economics. They're going to have to put that on the table. 55 to 64, the stronger voting block, and then 65 to 74, the most reliable voting block across the board, across races. As that debt starts to go down, they can start thinking about other things outside of themselves. But when you're in those groups and you're in that life stage, it makes sense economically for you to vote your pocket. And so some will have a preference, while others would look at this and say, debt comparison by age group, how is that related to politics? Well, marriage is politics because, as you will also note, by that 36, you will have either got it right and continue in the relationship that you were in. You could be 15 years into paying down that home, or at this point, you'll see that's where many have gotten it wrong and they are back out there on that market with $133,000 of their own personal debt. That they are on their own now when it comes to their insurance coverage. That any business you wanted to invest in, whether you were an entrepreneur, retail, wholesale, open a store, franchise chain owner, real estate advisor, consultant, social media marketer, media content developer, musician, entertainer, service sector, whatever it is that you look to do for yourself, you still had a hell of a lot of debt to overcome, and you were going to need a political agenda that was working favorably for you. working to your advantage and not against you. On the political ballot, what you will notice is that there are a lot of breaks for corporations, a lot of things that talk about tariffs and trades and things that has much less to do with you than you. Prices that you pay, the price at the pump. For instance, tariffs against Iran, sanctions against Iran and OPEC companies and oil distribution and energy, and how all of those are interconnected with the stock markets and all of those bigs. For you, you're thinking, well, I can save a couple of dollars at the pump, but you would know that it was like $4.25 when President Obama was president, and there weren't the tariffs there, so the correlation is not established. It's not about those prices, but it was about the tax breaks that they were given for the major corporations who would still turn around and drive up the profits on the backs of the American household. That was not an issue for you. That was an issue for the special interests. We have to get a little bit more strategic, and I think we have the time here and some momentum to make our requests known politically. Economically, this debt, this $13 trillion in debt, and the certain categories to which we can see that there are some definite disparities in debt, whether it's student loans or home loans and or approval rates, decline rates when you're trying to get those mortgages or whatnot. The amount of that mortgage that they're willing to give you, certain neighborhoods that they'd be willing to allow you to move into and get that mortgage from that first home loan. How do you leverage that? Do you want a multiple family unit complex to start off with? Are you looking to invest in something bigger? And what are your odds? All of the issues that seem to relate directly with us, and how do we crawl ourselves out of this 133,000 in debt? All of those issues, I think we have space to get them on the ballot, but we're going to need something stronger than what we've been doing. Yes. It does require a proximity to whiteness to make any of that shit happen. And in fact, it's almost an agitation that we would need. It is a direct conflict needed to stimulate the energy to change what's not been working in our favor. The agitation, the pushback. Look, I know you love President Barack Obama. I know you love the symbolism and the charisma and all of that represents. I know you love the symbolism of a Black woman vice president. There's no way you can't just not love that. And for whatever it's worth to you, the symbolism, I love it and I respect it and I cherish you for understanding that. The Black first, the first Black, that means something. It's valuable. But I don't want you to lose the fact that we got work to do. For the 36 to the 44 with 133,000. Now I look at that number and I say $133,000 worth of debt ain't shit. That is a goal to get back down to $133,000 in debt. That is a goal to get down to $133,000 in debt. I would segue right there and say, look, the Pookie and Ray Ray argument, since I got my brother Midtown Pookie in the chat, hey, don't knock it, but they have been they have had a way of not going this deep into debt. Look, if they couldn't afford the education, they probably wasn't going to go get that. They probably avoided student loan debt. That home, did they buy a home? I don't know if they even went to the bank to go buy a home. Not in that 22 to 35 stage when they were Pookie. And so maybe that 67 is a little bit more relevant. And you can also see that 67, if that is the number, maybe it's even a lot less than that when you're talking about the average. But maybe that 67 number is something that rides, it's higher or lower just by a little bit across their life cycle from 22 to 35. By 36 to 44, they still didn't go deep into debt. By 45 to 54, they still didn't get into debt. Maybe that works for them. But the middle class, the Black middle class, and those who, that educated lame like myself and my wife, who is definitely very lame, but working on her doctorate degree, Godspeed to her. 18 months. Let's encourage her. Keep going forward. But we got some challenges, and those challenges ain't going away by themselves. And in fact, when the median household debt is around $93,000 or housing debt, $93,000 for a house, that's the median. I'm like, Nick, where? Where can you live that's, at least a space where your entrepreneurial endeavors can have a shot in hell? A snowball's chance in hell, your own entrepreneurial endeavors, all of your marketing is going to be word of mouth generated, social media online generated, a friend, each one teach one, tell a friend. You're going door to door, passing out business cards. You're going to corporate events. You're going to the hotels. You're going to the W. You're going to restaurants. You're getting your name and your business out there, and each transaction matters to you. In a city like that, where do you find a $93,000 house that fits a family? Where do you find a space where that community is one that you can have an empowering position in for $93,000? You're going to be in the heart of the hood for $93,000. You are going to be in a place where politics in that marriage come right to the forefront, where educating your children, as educated folks, you're passing that trait along, the value of education. And that is the same neighborhood where those schools are underfunded, where even in your income bracket, the taxes on that $93,000 home are not affording the luxury STEM courses at that high school, where you're 36 to 44 now. Got married probably around 25, 26. So by the time you're 36, you got an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old, someone who's about to go to that high school where if the median housing debt is $93,000, taxes are driving or funding that high school. And those taxes are generated by the households in that community where you live, where it's $93,000 houses or less. And the taxes generated on $93,000 homes are not buying STEM courseworks, chemistry and nuclear physics courses, and the teachers that are needed that speak of the damn English straight and plain. Jesus. So your son can look up and see a black STEM teacher who is ADOS. Not someone whose language barriers make it all the more difficult to even understand the content that is being delivered in those classrooms. Where do you get $93,000 homes? You get them in the hood where you can check off the box where the community can come together. You can have community impact, but the tax base is going to cause some division politically in your home when education is your pipeline to the middle class. That's the fundamental value you're trying to give your kids, is an opportunity. You ain't got no money to afford them an education. They're going to need scholarships. Guess what? That minority scholarship is very competitive. You have to win as a child. And when you apply, you have the chance of winning as that minority, but the bulk of scholarships for PWIs are still going to the bulk of students who attend PWIs, which are not us. That's that small group of donors who wanted minority investment. They wanted minority, they wanted diversity. And so there's a small treasury for those who encourage diversity, the reconciliation, the closeness to whiteness at the PWI. And the HBCUs are underfunded, so they can go there. And don't be mistaken, HBCUs, some of them are very competitively priced. So you're going to need scholarships for your children. And while living in a community where the housing debt is $93,000 would afford you a little bit more in savings, Morehouse and Spelman cost around $48,000 and $43,000 a year, respectively. At 22 to 35 in the early stages, you're making 45 to 70. And so that would mean the equivalent of one of those household incomes in totality, all of it, going straight towards that one child's education for that 1 year. If you save 25% of that whole income of $45,000, it would take you 4 years. It would take you 16 if you're just going by those quarters. So 16 years. So guess what? That puts you at the 36 to 45 And they're already in high school, these kids. There are politics in marriage. Economics are important. And what ends up on that ballot is important to us. Take it this way: student loan debt, $133,000 from 36 to 44, meaning the median student loan debt. That is not a doctor. $133,000 can be the bachelor's degree by itself. That ain't no doctor. That ain't no lawyer right there with only $133,000 of debt. That is not them. That is somebody who got a great degree and now they're ready to go into the workforce, potentially at management, lower management, or looking to get into middle management by the time they hit their 30s. Very few are going to the Goldman Sachs, the Chase Banks, the Morgan Stanleys, the Deloitte Consultants, the Ernst & Youngs. Many are going into the government sector, but they're still going to be making that 45 to 60 in those early years. There's people with more tenure who got that 4% bump, which covered the 2% inflation, therefore giving them 2% every year. But because they have 10 years your senior, they're the ones still fighting for that middle management still after 16 years, and thus 40,000 from 22, 42,000 at 23, 44 at 24. And as you keep going up, by the time you get to 36, you probably only got to around 50, 56, 58, maybe $60,000 if you're just getting that 4% increase every year. So maybe you were more fortunate, which most aren't, because we know the median income is only $44,000 for the household in America. So I'm giving you best case scenario, educated lame, as they like to call us in the Black YouTube sector. And I'm giving you a personal anecdote, but I'm giving it to you from the lens of being a part of this big macro economy. Where do you situate or see yourself age-wise, and then by comparison to debt in your age group? Where are you in your life cycle when it comes to debt? Because at this 36 to 44, despite not having the cash to send my children to college, they will most likely still need a Parent Plus loan. So at this group, when I finally got my car maybe paid off, I finally started paying down some of my student loans. My house is starting to give me some equity, but I still owe a bit. Now I have a college age student who's going to need Parent Plus loans, probably in excess of $12,000 a year, or enough to make up the difference between what that school charges, their scholarships that they actually won, and what the federal government is going to cover. So Bernie Sanders, free education, that's where my wife might go. And if you follow me on Facebook, you would see that I have a photo with Joe Biden, who might as well make that black woman his running mate as close as his face was to her face. Proximity to whiteness and how they've benefited aside, let's break down this educated black households into some more distinct categories. Group 0, where I see most of us, black men, we are married with children and working on multiple assets, meaning I may have a home, my baby mama may have a home. I don't have one personally, but I could understand. My wife may be working on assets, a business, a side business, or something along those lines. Limited liability company, partnership or sole proprietorship, something along those lines. Or oftentimes you're just married and both working, but working towards multiple assets. You have your home, and then you also have the group A, which is, look, we're cool with just our home. We're not looking to go into businesses. This is where you'll see a lot of us married with children and a single asset being that home. No side businesses or nothing, because these households could not figure out that economics were important, that at some point you were going to have a residual income stream outside of being able to work for somebody else or to increase your proximity to whiteness, which means go work for somebody else. You are not going to be able to sustain yourself or create the generational wealth needed, those assets to pass down, those trust funds or anything to help your children get a leg up in life. Savings weren't going to happen when the average median household income for the household, which is married couples, the average is only $44,000. So hopefully this is making sense. Group B, that single parent doing it by herself, maybe that baby mama who has that asset, and the man of the house has gone, he's moved on, maybe he's the single parent himself. Kids come with him, maybe the kids aren't even with him, so he falls into group C, or maybe she falls into group C. They are single without children. Keep in mind, these are educated Black households, so they still have their $67,000 if they're between the ages of 22 to 35. They're educated. They got their degree. They got those student loans. They got that car. They got their maybe an apartment. Maybe they're looking to be that first time homeowner, but this is where they're at in their life cycle. But they got some debts. 40% of their discretionary monies is going towards, clothing, food you got to eat, entertainment, things like that. But then there's also group D, which is also relevant because many aren't educated Black households. They did not go get that bachelor's degree. They may have some college education. Maybe they went and tried to get a certificate. They went to the JUCO, to the junior college, or the community college. They started taking some classes and they realized, look, this school shit ain't for me. Maybe they got a couple of, what happens? They'll give you the grant and they cash that check. And then they dropped all of those courses and they never went back. Maybe they tried that again, but that was their reality, is that they did not end up with an associate's or that bachelor's degree. Many of our households just don't have that education. So I would say to their advantage, maybe they don't even have that $67,000 in debt. Maybe theirs is a lot lower. They got that car, they got, just basic bills. They live in an apartment or a shared space, but it just does not apply to them. So I got a couple of asterisks there. Each household is compared by income. We know that. We know that. This is a political season. They're looking for donors. They're looking for big block donors. So let me move on with my questions. Why would she agree to be his running mate when he obviously has some creepy tendencies and likes to put his nose right there on her face? Why would she agree? Was there any unfinished business? This Play 360 with the NFL, or this Let's Move, this health space, the funding mechanism, or this individual mandate for insurance, or Obamacare? Them eliminating the individual mandate was a good thing for the households. So if it's not to preserve the legacy of Obamacare, which has not been dismantled, which was like that #1 campaign promise, the expansion of Medicare happened. The more people enrolled, the market for insurance, all of that happened. It is still on the books. You can still get it. It's still there. None of that changed. The only thing that they changed was this individual mandate, which, if you ask Brother Moses, was unconstitutional in the first place. Taxes originate in the House. They took it to the Supreme Court. See, I got to give them facts. They took it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said it wasn't technically a tax, which is, they looked at the language, semantic argument, like, are you Black or African American? What do you consider yourself? They did one of those with it, and thus they said it was fair and it went forward. But in this current administration, they threw it out and said, look, this individual mandate is not something that should penalize you on your tax returns. So that's all they really did so far on dismantling Obamacare. Nothing else besides that. And we know the biggest beneficiaries of this Obamacare was rural, white, old men anyway. Facts, look it up for yourself. So why would she even agree? I look at the Play 360 for the symbolism in it. It seems like something that was about health, and health is wealth, and health is wealth, and driving that message home. And we know that there's some health disparities, even in the health studies, and health inequities. And do you go to the hospital enough? And what are you going to the hospital for? Some stigmas against going to the hospital. The cost of going to the hospital being so inexorbitant that it's prohibitive to go. The deductibles being higher. The amount of treatment that you actually receive being lower, technology in the healthcare space look, you can get a doctor's visit from your primary over the phone or through a Skype visit or something like that. You can damn near Google it, send that image to your primary doctor, and they'll respond to the image like, yep, that's weird. you need to come in and get that checked out. I mean, there are so many other things that are happening that healthcare in my age group as a voting household, we got other issues to focus on. So if it's not healthcare, what is number 4, their agenda? What would be on that ballot for Joe Biden and Michelle Obama? What is it that they actually want to accomplish? If history repeats itself, this tough on crime as I move to the center and the 1994 crime bill, if that's what you want to repeat, then kiss my ass. You don't have a snowball's chance in hell. You won't win California. But if it is the remedy of that or restorative justice for that fucked up legislation that you passed while you were passing laws and such, if it is to revisit that, undo it, turn it around, legalize marijuana, have some form of hiring programs and even entrepreneurial pathways for those who are disaffected and disenfranchised by that legislation, then maybe you got something there. Maybe it's the empowerment of Black women that they look for more symbolism, but they also look to try to close that gap on income or wage disparity for Black women. I don't know. But it will be on the table as a question. What would their political agenda actually be? Or are they just running to get Trump out of office, but don't actually have a true agenda that they would want to see actualized here in America? Number 5, what about that poor man's vote? Does it even matter for those who it really doesn't apply to? What was that? Oh, yeah. My critique here is on social stratification in general. I disagree with the categorization approach. So if you're looking at how I'm breaking down the age groups, educated versus uneducated, all of that, I disagree with social stratification outright, flat out. Social stratification is one of the most divisive things. Again, let's not start those wars over ideology. It's definitely like challenging somebody's belief system. If you ask them, why is social stratification important? Why is it important to look at it from the poor or the upper poor or the low middle class, the upper middle class, and then look at those different blocks and differentiate one to the other and say, well, this one is better than this one because I don't even like that way of having the conversation. It's like challenging someone's belief system when you tell them, look, upper middle class and lower middle class, it's just the fudging of the numbers. Asking why they believe in God is what you're typically doing when you talk about the middle class versus the upper middle class. Why is it important that they have an agenda that gives an advantage to the middle class? And then finally, who wants to debate morality anyway? What is right? What is wrong? What is good? What is bad? The best thing to do versus the worst thing to do? All we know is that this is a political season, and we have damn near a duty to have a conversation about it at the very minimum inside of Black media. Super Tuesday should be the thing that you're talking about. It is the trending thing. It is fair. In most cases, keep your politics to yourself unless you have somebody who's willing to have that conversation. We got 6 folks who rocked with us on this conversation. It's been about 45 minutes. And so I'm going to go about 2 more minutes. I said 10 minutes. I'd be long-winded. And I'm just now getting to the meat of this whole conversation. I haven't even really opened up the slides, the hill, the root, and all of those other Black media, the Hill, I think, and then the Root, I think they're, they have a lot of diversity. Let's not call them Black media. They got diverse media channels. Let's call them that. They are the diverse media channels, and they already have chimed in with their perspective. But what say you? B1 Network, Black Manosphere, Conscious Community. If you rock with B1, Brother Moses, what say you? If you're having this conversation, what does politics in marriage look like? Are your issues economic, like in my household, where debt is the number one thing that we have conversations on? Debt. That is my principle there. How will we manage this debt? What are we doing in order to create an advantage for our children? That is our ballot right there. Our ballot is the success that we're able to realize through our children, because we are already in you're going to have to keep working, and every morning wake up, go back to work. And every night when you come home, start putting together those pieces for your own successful business ventures that you would like to invest in once you create an economic surplus and you have some savings that you can leverage as equity for your own business. Politics, that's your business. Economics, that's your business. Debt, is the business of the household, and marriage is politics. B1 Brother Moses, that's all I got right here. Tell me what you think about this picture right here. I thought this was one of the creepiest things I had ever seen in my kissing cousins. Jeez. I kiss your wife, you kiss my wife. You know, a little controversy sells. Is this just too damn close? Like forehead to forehead? What do you think about that? This one here, she's actually kissing him on the face. Like, Jesus, Obama's lips puckered. Look where his hand is. See, he doesn't have that same challenge. Like you put your hand right there on the white woman who you fought to get access to and proximity of closeness to, and you move that hand right there, you ain't gonna hit nothing. Even if your hand gets heavy and falls, it's gonna hit the damn ground before it hits anything. But we saw the picture with Creepy Joe. Got to tell Creepy Joe, watch your hand, Joe. Watch your hand, brother, because he can't do that same thing. If that hand slides a little bit, it's going to hit her right there on the ass. That's what it is going to do. President or not president, Secret Service going to have to ego over. They'll have to run up on him like, hey, we saw that. The biggest Me Too case is right there. This was damn near a Me Too moment right here, just that close. But when you're kissing cousins close and on your farewell speech, you include that this was one of the greatest joys of your life, was them being like family. I guess that's not a Me Too moment there, especially with pictures like this. Y'all kissing the hell out of each other. Y'all doing a lot of kissing with these white folks. I don't know how you definitely look. I don't know how you look at that, but this is a whole lot of damn kissing right here. This guy's nose is damn near on her ear. That is some high school player shit right there. For those folks who struggled in this department, that was some high school player shit right there. Getting that nose that close to the ear, like you really had to whisper it, and you didn't even have the turkey neck at the time, so I don't even, the gobble whatever that thing is called, so there was no reason to have to whisper. And she got that crazy eye thing going right there too. But to match your dress with his tie, or for him to match his tie with your dress, that is pretty damn close. And then here again, you see to match the tie and the polka dots with the polka dots, same blue and white that they're wearing together. That is damn near weird. Kissing cousins close. And my conclusion is, if y'all gonna be this damn close, y'all might as well be running mates. B1 Brother Moses, that's all I got, and I'm out.